Alright guys, so in this video I'm going to be showing you the 5th grade level of the A.C.E. English and Bible. I've just got one of the books sitting here for the English, but they are numbered. If you're not familiar with the A.C.E., you get 12 paces. That's these little booklets right here. You get 12 individual little booklets. And what I'm going to do today for this video is just kind of flip through and show you kind of the main points of what these subjects are covering. So again, this is English and Bible for the A.C.E. This is A.C.E. School of Tomorrow. We've got Bible and English. I will put a link. I got these from christianbook.com, but you can order these straight from the A.C.E. School of Tomorrow website. But I ordered everything this year off of christianbook.com. If you want to see my video where I showed a review of everything that I got, I didn't go into detail in that video, but I did show everything that I got for my rising 5th grader and 10th grader. So if you want to see that, I will link to that video in the description. And if there's anything else, any other flip throughs or anything that you're looking for, just check out the playlist. I've got several flip throughs that I've done over the last couple years. So go check that out. But if you are interested in this and want to see a detailed look of the inside of these books, just hang around. I'm going to do the English first, and then I will go over to the Bible. So for those that are not familiar with this, like I said, there are 12 books, and I've got the other 11 little booklets or paces. I've got them laid over here to the side open so that I could see into some of the details and tell you about it. But what it is 12 individual booklets. I believe they are all the same. Yep. For the 5th grade level, they are all 39 pages. And then you have a test that is right in the middle of the book that you pull out. Let me see if I can get there to it. There it is. All right, so it's a little 4-page, well, actually 3 pages, test that is right in the middle of the, it's like stapled in here, so you can just grab a hold of it and just pop it right out of there. It comes out pretty clean. So you would take the test out. That is the final test. The way these books are, I'll just give you a rundown really quick. This is an open and go curriculum, Christian curriculum. Just be aware. This is, in case you didn't know that. You start the books out. They grade all this themselves with the score key, is what A.C.E. calls it. And I've got that pack right here. So you get a score key that covers 3 books at once. So you've got 4 score keys here. And the student is responsible for checking their own work. And all this is answers. This is not a teacher book. This is open and go for the student to do their work, follow the instructions, and then check their answers with the answer book here, the score key. So each book, you got 12 books that cover their own thing. At the beginning of each book, it gives goals, it gives the scripture verse, and it gives a quality trait or a character trait. And they are to learn this Bible verse in every book. So they're going to have 12 Bible verses that they learn throughout the year. Once they finish the 12 books, that is considered, being done with the grade level. There are checkups, there's a self-test, and then a test. So it's broken down into 3 sections. Let me get to the first self-test. This first book is covering some of the basic stuff, just kind of reviewing. You can see they're doing sounds and reviewing their cursive. Okay, so here's the first checkup. You've got checkup number 1. Then you have another section. And you'll have, I think it's behind the test, you'll have checkup number 2. I'm also going over this just to make sure I'm right. Well, where's checkup number 2? Did I miss it? I must have missed it. Maybe that was checkup number 2. That was a big section. So there's checkup number 2, and it's just 1 page. And then you'll have a checkup at the end. Right here. This was the 3rd checkup. So it was split up into 3 different sections. That was the 3rd checkup. And it's kind of like mini tests. And once they get done with that 3rd checkup, and each checkup is just testing their knowledge of what they did in that section. And then when you get done with the 3rd checkup, you'll go to the self-test. And this is testing their knowledge on the entire book. And when you get to this point, they're supposed to be able to say that Bible verse by themselves, just from memory. All right. And then when you do that, they're supposed to make a certain grade. I guess it's up to you if you're homeschooling. When you're going to an A.C.E. school, like I graduated from, you have to have at least a 90 score on this before you can move on to the test. And that's a whole other thing if you don't make at least a 90. I won't go into all of that right now, but you're supposed to redo it. So after the self-test and you pass that with at least a 90, then you can move on and take the test. And this would be, like I say, pulled out of the book. Oh, I can't get those pages separated. So this would be pulled out of the book. And once they're done with that self-test, you would give them this test to take. So it's not open book or anything. You take the book away from them and you give them the test to take. Or, you know, if they're old enough and you trust them to do it, then they can get their own test and take their own test. And they even grade their own test. So and again, if you're homeschooling, it's up to you, your discretion about the grades, but in an A.C.E. school, you're supposed to make at least an 80 to pass and go on to the next pace with these tests. So if you'll see these yellow highlighted sections, this is supervisor initial. And if you've noticed this is where the student scores or checks their own work. They call it scoring, score keys. So once they get to this point, like they'll have a couple of pages that they do, and then it'll say, you know, this is their point to stop. It'll say score this page. And they're supposed to check their work, mark anything that's wrong, and then put an X that they finished that. And then they're supposed to go back and correct their work. You know, erase the stuff that's wrong, do it again, check that little box off that they corrected it, and then go back, get their answer key, open up, look at the answers again, and you rescore it. If you have a kid that is very, very unmotivated and they don't care whatsoever and you can't trust them to do this on their own, I don't advise this. I don't advise letting them do this on their own. You would need to either check it yourself or, you know, stand over their shoulders as they're checking it, because it is very easy, especially if you're homeschooling and nobody's watching, for them to take advantage of this curriculum in the way that the scoring is, to not do it correctly and just, you know, write down the answers, you know, check their work, look at the right answers, and just change their answers to the right answers. I mean, my kids ain't perfect. And I know other kids would be tempted to do the same thing. So again, this is for if your student is motivated, you know, and you know that you can trust them to do this, then this is very open and go and hands off for you as the parent. And it's for me, I really like this open and go style, that they can do this on their own, because it takes a lot of the pressure off of me, especially with our situation. If you don't know, you can go back and watch some of our videos. But that is basically the rundown of how the curriculum works. I'm going to let you know a little bit about what this 5th grade curriculum is going to cover. You saw this as I was flipping through it, that it's covering a lot of the basic stuff. But when you open the books up and it tells you the goals, it's going to tell you what each pace is covering. So this one is reviewing cursive writing, learn more about the use of a dictionary, review the 3 kinds of sentences, and then it goes to the character trait, to learn from God's law, to be just with others, to be equitable. So they're going to get a Bible verse and a character trait that kind of go hand in hand. And then also, if you've noticed these little kind of comic book type strips here, the A.C.E. curriculum, like some of the subjects don't have them, but most of the subjects you are following these students, and the students are the same age as the book. So right now, like these students, or most of these students, are in 5th grade. Like it's like you're watching them grow up with you as you do this curriculum. And there are, like, this is A.C.E., and I cannot remember who that is. Sandy, I believe, is her name. I remember this from when I was doing this, and my kids have been doing this year. I just haven't really been paying attention to those little stories, but they have little stories, and sometimes they're just telling you the instructions like this. A sentence usually ends with a period or a question mark. But then sometimes you have like actual little stories going on. Okay, like this one is a little story about equitable, and there's a situation happening, and it is pretty much like a comic strip, like you're watching a story unfold and you're reading it, you know, like a graphic novel style, and you're seeing these stories happen and watching them grow up. And when you get to the 12th grade level, you'll see that they are a little bit older. I've got the 10th grade, well, in another video I'll have 10th grade books, and you can see that the kids are older, like a 10th grade level. So I'm just going to show you, let me pull this whole stack of books over and show you what they're going to be learning. I had this pulled open so that you could see the first page on all of these, but I think I'm just going to show you the test because that will really tell you what they're going to be covering when you look at the test. So this first book, I'll just show you the self-test. Again, remember the self-test covers everything that was in the book. It's not the last test. It's not the main test, but it is a test that will cover, the knowledge of everything that was in the book. So the self-test in this first book was a review, alphabetical order, punctuation, and handwriting. And they were learning the different types of sentences. So that was book number 1, number 1049. Like I said, I had all these pulled open so that you could see what was in the beginning, but I think I'm just going to close these and pull these out and show you the tests. So this was the next book, and I'm just going to do this super quick. They are going to get into diagramming sentences, but I don't think it's just yet. So this one is fill in the blanks about person, place, or things, nouns, plural and singular. Again, more subject nouns. This is the next book. I'm just going to flip through a couple of these. Okay, this one they start learning present participle, past participle. That was the checkup on that one. Self-test, action verb, state of being verb, ownership verb. So they're getting more into the different types and types of verbs and nouns and dissecting the sentences a little bit more so that they can start diagramming them. Complete this chart by giving the missing form of each verb. Okay, present, past, present participle, past participle. All right, we're going to skip a couple of these. Go on to this one. This is number 1054. Here they have started diagramming sentences. So the test on this one, compound nouns, direct object, subject, noun, verb, phrase. So they get into the diagramming sentences in this section about halfway, a little more than half, or a little less than halfway through. They're going to start diagramming sentences. More diagramming sentences. And if you'll notice that there's no literature in this. This is a language. This is not a literature. This is not much of a writing curriculum. It is a basic English language curriculum. So if you are looking for a language curriculum or looking for more reading type things to put in this literature, then you'll need to add something to this. Oh, they're doing letter writing in this book. Still doing the grammar side, a lot of grammar, but then also doing some letter writing in this one. My 5th grader is going to be doing some history reading, so she will definitely get her reading in. It just won't be associated with her English subject. And if you missed that video, I believe I covered it in my last video where I showed our Master Books 5th grade curriculum. So if you want to see that, you can go back and find that video. All right, this one, punctuations. Yeah, this one's a lot of, mostly, it's all punctuation, it looks like in this book. So a lot of punctuation in that one. I said I was going to skip around, but I'm just kind of going through all of these, so it's not taking that long. Going back to more diagramming in this one. Prepositions, conjunctions, interjections. So I'd say this is probably getting into things, or for my daughter, in my experience, this is getting into stuff that I'm probably going to have to help her with to make sure that she is staying on track and actually learning and getting this. And there is, I think I started talking about this a little bit ago, but I didn't finish. The yellow highlighted places is where you or the parent, supervisor, whoever is in charge of their school is supposed to be initialing this. So there'll be instructions on there for you to make sure that they have done something or that they know what's coming up. Let me see if there's some more. This one, yeah, this is the one at the end to where they're supposed to say their Bible verse to you. So that was an initial where they're supposed to come to you and say, hey, I need you to initial this. And you look at the instructions and go, okay, well, you need to do this before I can initial it. This one right here, I guess because you're getting into kind of the harder things that are it's not just a direct yes or no answer, whether they got it right or wrong. There are supervisor initials needed for this. This one says, check to see that the adjective has been changed to an adverb and properly used in the sentence. So this one is kind of up to your discretion, I guess, on how they word it. There's different options. It could be different answers. It's not just one right answer. So it wants a supervisor or a parent to look at it to make sure that they're doing it right. Lots of diagramming in that one. Oh, I think I went backwards. I did. I went backwards. Number 60. These were laid out backwards. Number 60 was the last book, so that letter writing was the last one. So diagramming is happening starting in the middle to like the middle part of the 12 books. Like it looks like it was like book 4 to 9 or 10 was a lot of diagramming. And then the score keys, I think I already showed you that. You get 4 score keys with this, and that is it for this subject. You get the 12 books and the 4 score keys. And if you decide to do this subject again, you don't have to buy the score keys again as long as they haven't upgraded and made a new edition. You got to check to make sure you've got the right edition, 4th edition, 4th edition. So if you've got another student that is going to be doing this the following year, then you'll just need to reorder the paces and you won't need to reorder the score keys. All right, so what I take away from this is that there's going to be a lot more of the like sentence diagramming and learning the nouns and pronouns and adjectives and all that different stuff. So that's what we'll be looking forward to coming this next year. So I'm going to move these to the side and get the Bible books. All right, so this is the 5th grade Bible. It's the same book numbers. We've got 1049 through 1060. Exact same thing. 12 books, 4 score keys. I'm just going to flip through these and kind of let you know what these books are going to be all about this year. So I'm just going to flip through. This one is a new edition, I do believe. This is a 2019 revision. Let me look at what these English books were. Because this is the old, this looks like an old version. It's not. This one says 2020 revision. Copyright 2018 with a 2020 revision. Okay, well, that's different. This just looks different than I remember. So this says this one is a 2013 with a 2019 revision. Okay, just looks a little different. All right, so opening this up, this looks a little different. The goals on this one, it says to read and answer questions from the Bible. In this booklet, or this pace, you're going to be going through Acts 1 and 2, Psalms 1 through 3, and Genesis 1 through 9. And then it gives the different things that you're going to be learning about in the book of Acts, Psalms, and Genesis. And it's going through different stories and telling you where you're finding them. And then the last one, it says to memorize, personalize, and meditate on Scripture. And faithful is the character trait in this book. And there's no Bible verse right here. I guess they're going to get that in a little bit. This is a little bit different looking. This does not look like their Bible books have looked in the past, or what I even remember doing when I did this subject in school. All right, down here, the little highlighted area for the supervisor initial, it says, while completing this pace, the student will use the King James Version of the Bible, a knowledge of which will broaden his learning experience and expand his reading vocabulary. So if you're going to be copying word for word and doing the memorizing, you need to have the King James Version to go along with this. I'm not sure what it's going to do if you use a different version, if that's going to mess your student up. But I know the A.C.E. Uses the King James, which works for us because that's what we use. So that works for me. But if you don't use that, I don't know, we'll just kind of look through here and see if that's going to affect the way that your student is learning. All right, up here it gives the directions. Read and study Acts 1 through 2, Psalms 1 through 3. As you read and study Acts 1 through 13, fill in the blanks with the correct answers. So for these question and answers, they're supposed to read Acts chapter 1, verses 1 through 13. And then up here it tells them, as you read and study Acts 1, verses 14 through chapter 2, verse 17, fill in the blanks with the correct answers. So there's more question and answers, tips for memorization on them memorizing their Bible verses. verses that talk about memorizing things and personalizing the scriptures. What does it mean to personalize? When you personalize scripture, you put words that refer to you into the scripture you were studying. Compare each of these Bible verses with the way it is personalized. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. I know that in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. So it's not telling you to reword it or to write it in your own words. It's telling you how to think about it, how to think what God meant with those words that he put in the Bible. All right, another one. This is, so I guess you're getting different character traits. This one's talked about being faithful. This one's talking about being bold. So it's telling you what verses to read out of, or that you're going to be reading out of, but the instructions are in the blue. It says, as you read and study Acts chapter 2:18, verse 2:47, fill in the blanks with correct answers. So they're reading and answering questions. It's going from reading verses and answering questions to doing a little bit of studying or learning about how to study the Bible. Again, directions in blue on what they're supposed to be reading in order to answer these questions. All right, and then here, I guess, is where they put into practice their memorizing, how to memorize, personalize, and meditate. From the scripture passages you read, Acts 1-2 and Psalms 1-3, choose a verse that has become a blessing to you. Write it on the lines below. Personalize the verse by using the words I and me. So they would write their verse and then they would personalize it to what it means for them, like how they would say it in their own words. Continue to meditate on the verse and memorize it. Be prepared to write it on the checkup. So they didn't give you a specific verse to memorize for this book. And I don't know if it's going to be like that for the rest of the books. We'll see. But they let the student choose what verse they're going to memorize. And then here is the checkup. Answer and questions on the lines below. Write the scripture verse you have chosen to memorize for this section. Be prepared to say it to your supervisor as part of the self-test and test. So they would write their verse that they chose and where it's found. Here is a supervisor initial. Please score activity 24. So because they did not know what verse they're going to be doing, you have to check that to make sure that they wrote it correctly. All right, I apologize. I did not realize that my phone had stopped recording. So that book, I think we covered all the checkups and went to the self-test, and they're going to be doing their own Bible verses. I looked at another book. And I looked ahead to see how the Bible verse was going to work on the same, to see if the Bible verse was going to work the same way. And it is. They don't give you a specific Bible verse. It's going to go on to the memorization, meditation section. Oh, I think I passed it. And you pick your own. Well, there's some fun stuff. You pick your own Bible verse, and I'll just show you here at the end, self-test. There's the 2 Bible verses that you're supposed to all right, I apologize. The editing is going to be really wonky on this one. I didn't realize that my phone had cut off again on the recording. All right, so I think I covered that it looks like all of the books are going to be requiring them to do their own Bible verse, and so you will have to check that for them or with them, make sure that they're saying it right. But they're all laid out basically the same. At the beginning, it tells you what books of the Bible they're going to be reading and what stories they're going to be covering and where it's found. That's for each one of them. I'm going to go to the second to last and look at it real quick. Yep, same thing. It's laid out the exact same way. It looks like, from what I can see, from 4th grade level to this upcoming 5th grade level, according to what my daughter has been doing, the 5th grade level is doing a lot of teaching about how to study, how to memorize, ways to help you memorize scripture, and ways to apply what you're reading to your own life. This is the last book. Looks like nothing is much different. Just questions, fill in the blank, multiple choice, and doing the reading. This one is Acts 26-28, Psalm 33-34, and Exodus 33-40. So that's the stories that they're going to be reading. And yeah, it looks like it's just going to be More so this year, this coming year, 5th grade level than 4th grade level, doing the memorization and studying. They're not just reading stories and answering questions about it. This is really focusing on them studying and applying what they're studying and reading to their own lives. All right, so that was English and Bible for the 5th grade level. If you have any questions about any of this, and again, I'm sorry for the bad editing and cropping that this is doing because I didn't know my phone was turning off on the recording. If you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.